What's up, folks? Back with another reaction. I'm really excited to do this. We're going to listen to some more punk rock, and we're going to listen to a band that I haven't yet reacted to, and which I think is maybe more obscure in the punk rock world. Part of that is because they're from Europe, they're from Amsterdam, they're a Dutch hardcore band, or a Dutch punk rock band. And we're going to talk about Funeral Oration, which is a great name, by the way. I've always loved that name. Now, here's the thing. I discovered them in the mid-90s when I was getting into punk rock, and I was exploring different avenues of punk rock. And so the albums that I have from them are this self-titled one from 1995 on Hopeless. And then there's another one I have over here, and this is called Believer. This is also on Hopeless Records. But yeah, we're going to listen to the opening song on the self-titled album. But again, this is like 12 years after they got started. I think their first like cassette tape release was '83, and then I think they had some LP and CD releases on a couple European labels, and when they finally sort of made a breakthrough in the American punk scene, it was with Hopeless Records. So again, shout out to Hopeless for finding this band. I really do enjoy their sound. Their lead singer has a very interesting vocal quality. I'm gonna say in a way it reminds me of Jello Biafra because it has a bit of a warble to it, but it's a different voice. It's a lighter voice, and it's, no one sounds like Jello, but ultimately it does have kind of a warble and sort of like a vibrato to it that I think gives it a very characteristic sound. And the other reason I was really excited to react to this is because it's another song that in some ways addresses the evolution of punk rock as a genre and as an ethos and an attitude, and the passage of time and the growing old of people inside punk rock bands. It sort of addresses all those things. And again, this is '95, so it was already sort of, Funeral Oration and some other bands were already thinking about these things before they would perhaps become more acute and more obvious by the late '90s, early 2000s. But yeah, this song is called Still in a Punk Band. And again, this is more than a decade after they got started. They got started in the early 80s when, again, I've talked about sort of that punk rock of the late 70s and early 80s. It was very muckraking. It was very dissident, and in some ways dissident and kind of raw. And ultimately, over the course of the next decade or two, there were many bands that sort of claimed the punk rock mantle, but had begun to be a sort of plastic, sort of candified version of that, where it was about rebellion for the sake of style and fashion, and less about actually challenging systems of exploitation and authoritarian power and so on. So this song, Still in a Punk Band by Funeral Oration, is basically saying that, you remember those days, remember those early days when we were just, the punks, and we were just kind of speaking our minds and just, making those sounds of the characteristic early sounds? Well, it seems like so long ago. The summers were brighter. Hell, even the winters were brighter back then. And ultimately, people do get older, and it doesn't seem like things are the same anymore. But you know what? Some things don't change, and I still feel the same. You know what? We're still in a punk band, and I'll tell you what: if fortune has become your goal, then you've lost what it means to be a punk rock, or to be punk rock. And indeed, that line always stood out to me when I listened to this song, because it feels like it's just kind of like a personal slice of life, the passage of time. You remember those days, and now we're different, but we're still trying to play punk rock. But then it gets to that line, and it's and if fortune has become your goal, then you've lost it. So again, to me, it's about both the personal journey, but trying to stay renewed, trying to stay punk rock in your ethos, not just the music that you're playing. So I really enjoy the sort of attitude of this song that, hey, I may be in my 40s now, or I may be getting older, and in some ways I feel like the punk rock landscape has changed, but we're still trying to do it. We're still trying to do our thing, and we're not doing it because we want to make money per se. We're doing it because we have ideas to express. We have an attitude to convey and to maybe inspire others with. So I really do enjoy this one. Let's get to it. This is Funeral Oration on their self-titled album, though it's not a debut album. It's just their first album on Hopeless, and it's called Still in a Punk Band. Is this song? Apologies, I should have been slightly more ready, but here we go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. Mom and Dad don't understand. They just don't understand. That's hilarious. I did forget about that sort of like back to the kind of personal anecdote by the end of the song. That's like, yeah, we're still in a punk band, and you know, probably by this point, I'm guessing they were at least in their mid-30s, if not moving into their 40s. And it's like, yeah, Mom and Dad, they still don't understand. They just still don't get it. Which again reminds me of a song on Pennywise album's Land of the Free, which I'm now blanking on the name of it. It's one of the two Pennywise songs I reacted to, and the other one was Bro Him. So whatever one is not Bro Him, it's the song, the chorus is like, they're not too fond of me, but that's not actually the name of the song. But in that song, it's talking about how this person's family, and in particular their parents, just like, I don't get the things you care about, I don't get the music you play, I don't get your lifestyle or whatever. And he's basically saying, you know, they probably never will. And this song at the end, it's seemingly in a slightly lighter way, but it gets at the same point that, yeah, we're still in a punk band, we're still trying to do this, we're still trying to like convey ideas, and our parents still don't fucking understand us. I love that. So yeah, shout out to Funeral Oration. I do believe by the end of the 90s they disbanded. I believe they did one more album on Hopeless after this. I think it's called Survivor. I don't have it, but now that I'm sort of like remembering their catalog, I really think I have to get it. In fact, there's another CD release. I think it's a double CD release, and it includes every song they ever made. So I think it's like over 40 songs long. It's like a notably large compilation, but maybe that's the one I'll have to get. Either way, I do want to react to some tunes from Survivor, because I do remember hearing one or two. I just never ended up getting it. But yeah, let me know what you think. I really do like this band. As I said, the singer has a very like interesting voice. I really came to love it, and like I said, in some ways it reminds me a tiny bit of Jello Biafra, so let me know if you agree or if you hear it differently. Other than that, thank you for listening and watching. I do appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Peace.